I never thought a quiet Saturday afternoon in my backyard would turn into a showdown with Child Protective Services, but here we are. It all started when my kids were playing outside, just laughing, being kids. Then, out of nowhere, I hear someone yelling over the fence. It was Karen. Yeah, that asterisk kind of Karen. The neighbor who always finds something to complain about. This time, she was furious that my yard was too messy and claimed it was unsafe for children. Before I could even finish explaining that the toys were just out because the kids were playing, she snapped a few photos with her phone and stormed off. I didn't think much of it until a CPS caseworker knocked on my door 3 days later. What Karen didn't know, asterisk, and this is the best part asterisk, is that I'm a federal child welfare investigator. I know exactly how these cases work, what's legal, what's not, and how serious false reports can be. But instead of getting angry, I decided to play it cool and let things play out. I welcomed the caseworker in, knowing I had nothing to hide, but also curious to see how far Karen was willing to go with her lies. Let's just say what happened next, even I wasn't prepared for. The caseworker, a young woman named Lisa, stepped inside and introduced herself politely. She looked a bit nervous, probably expecting resistance. I could tell right away she was new to the job. Her binder still had sticky notes poking out, and she was trying to follow a checklist. I invited her to sit down, offered her some water, and let my kids keep playing just like they always do. No need to change anything when you've got nothing to hide. As she started her questions, I could see her glancing around the house, taking mental notes. Everything was clean, the kids were happy, and there wasn't a single red flag. I asked her casually what the report had said. She paused for a second, then told me Karen had claimed my yard was full of broken objects, that the kids were left unsupervised, and that there were possible signs of neglect. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a nosy neighbor being dramatic. Karen had really gone out of her way to try and ruin something, and I still didn't know why. What made it even stranger was that I've barely had more than a few conversations with her since we moved in. So why now? Why escalate it to this level? That's when I realized there might be more going on than I thought. As Lisa continued her visit, walking through each room and checking boxes on her clipboard, I could tell she was starting to feel a little awkward. Everything she'd been told clearly didn't line up with what she was seeing. My kids were healthy, smiling, and eager to show her their artwork on the fridge. The backyard, yeah, it had toys scattered around, but nothing dangerous or unusual. Still, Lisa had to do her job, and I respected that. But the deeper she went into her checklist, the more it became obvious this report was full of exaggerations. That's when I asked the question that had been bugging me. Asterisk, did the report include my name or any previous concerns? Asterisk, she hesitated, then said something that stopped me cold. This wasn't the first time Karen had called CPS. Apparently, mine was the third house she'd reported in the last year. Families with kids every time. And while nothing ever came of those reports, it still meant caseworkers had to show up and investigate, wasting time, resources, and causing stress for innocent families. That's when it hit me. Karen wasn't just a meddling neighbor. She was using the system, either out of spite or for some twisted sense of control. And the real question now was, why now? I had a feeling I was about to find out. After Lisa left, I sat on the couch trying to process everything. The visit went smoothly, sure, but now I was staring down something bigger than just a false CPS report. This wasn't about toys in the yard or some neighborly disagreement. Karen had a pattern, and I was starting to see it clearly. I decided to dig a little. Using what I know from my job in child welfare, I looked into public records and reached out quietly to a contact at the local office. Nothing confidential, just basic info. And sure enough, 2 of the families Karen had reported had moved out months after the visits. No official findings, no charges, just quiet exits. That got me thinking, was she trying to drive people away? Was there something she wanted? Or was it just power? I started paying closer attention to her movements. Every afternoon she'd sit in her window, notebook in hand, pretending to read, but clearly watching our yard. Sometimes she'd even walk her dog past slowly, staring at my front door like she was waiting for something to go wrong. I kept my cool, but my instincts were on high alert. Then, a few days later, I came home to find a letter taped to my door. No stamp, no envelope, just a single sheet of paper, and what it said chilled me. I stood on the porch staring at that letter for a long minute before opening it. It wasn't typed. It was handwritten, messy, like someone rushed through it, and the message was short. Asterisk, you think you're smarter than everyone. Watch your step. Next time they won't just knock. Asterisk, no name, no signature. My heart sank. This wasn't just Karen being annoying anymore. This felt like a threat. And if she didn't write it, someone else had taken things way too far. I immediately checked my security cameras. Nothing unusual. No clear footage of who left it. Just a blurry figure in a hoodie walking up the steps, slipping the note on the door, then disappearing into the street. My mind raced. Was Karen working alone, or had someone else gotten involved? Was this about my job, or something else entirely? The timing was too perfect. Just days after the CPS visit, just after I started asking questions. And the part that really got me, how would anyone know I'd talked to someone at the office? That info wasn't public, which meant someone was watching more closely than I realized. The tension in the house shifted. I found myself double-checking locks, glancing out windows. This wasn't just about a nosy neighbor anymore. This was personal, and it felt like something bigger was about to break. I knew I couldn't let this go. That letter changed everything. I filed a police report and handed over the footage, even though the figure wasn't clearly visible. At the same time, I reached out through official channels and submitted a formal complaint against Karen for making a false CPS report. As a federal child welfare investigator, I knew how serious that was. It's not just wasting resources, it's putting real children and families through unnecessary trauma. And with her history, the case wasn't hard to build. A few days later, I came home to see an unmarked vehicle parked in front of Karen's house. 2 plainclothes officers were at her door, and from the porch, I could hear her voice rising, panicked, trying to explain herself. She saw me across the street and froze. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid, not smug, not annoyed. Just caught asterisk. Turns out, she wasn't just filing complaints. She'd been keeping a detailed journal on multiple neighbors, documenting their schedules, watching their children, even making anonymous calls. She said she was protecting the neighborhood. But it didn't stop there. Here's the twist. When investigators went through her records, they found something unexpected. One of the families she reported last year. The dad was a former CPS worker too, and he had once denied her a foster care application. That's when everything clicked. This wasn't just nosiness or power, it was revenge. After everything came to light, Karen was officially warned and placed under investigation for filing multiple false Child Protective Services reports. The families she targeted, including mine, were notified and given support to clear their names fully. It was a strange mix of relief and disbelief, knowing someone could hold that much resentment for so long and use a system meant to protect kids as a weapon for personal revenge. I later found out that her denied foster care application had left her bitter, and instead of healing, she let it twist into something darker. Things in the neighborhood slowly returned to normal. Karen eventually moved out, quietly, without saying a word to anyone. The letter? Still a mystery. Police couldn't trace it, but once Karen was gone, the tension vanished with her. I tightened up my home security, kept my connections close, and most importantly, stayed present for my kids, who thankfully never knew how close things came to spiraling. This experience reminded me just how easily systems meant to protect can be misused, and how important it is to stay alert, especially when you know how they work. In the end, standing your ground with the truth really does make all the difference.